Hello, everyone. Thank you all for coming to our webinar devoted to such a modern topic as hyperconvergence and to the very interesting solution by itglobal.com that is called vStack. My name is Yevgenia and I'm an international account executive in itglobal.com. First of all, let me give you a short overview of ITG Group of companies. We are an international group with more than 10 IT companies, each in a different line of IT business. We are an infrastructure as a service provider, a system integrator, and a software developer. Our team has elaborated such solutions as an ITSM system called Simple One, a click and buy cloud platform called ServiceSpace, a traffic analysis and prioritization software for telecom companies called Stingray Service Gateway by VAS Experts LLC, and the core product of today's discussion, a hyper-converged platform called vStack. Okay, let us start. It's important to say that this webinar may be useful for those who are familiar with enterprise virtualization systems. There will be a webinar recording available, so please feel free to share the link with your IT team or other colleagues that might be interested. So today we'll discuss what is the difference between the hyperconverged infrastructure and classical types of enterprise-level infrastructures. We will see how the vStack architecture looks like, and then I'll show you the vStack graphic user interface. Hyperconverged infrastructure, or HCI, is a software-defined IT infrastructure that integrates software-defined computing, storage, and networking. In other words, each server in the infrastructure performs these three functions. This is the key difference between hyperconvergence and classical convergence, where computing, storage, and networking functions are assigned to the servers with dedicated roles, or even to separate devices like a router or a storage system. You can see classical converged solution with n+1 redundancy on the slide. If we move from the top to the bottom of the scheme, we have here a router, high availability pair of core switches, high availability pair of service switches and the servers themselves, including standby hosts, high availability pair of SAN switches, storage complex with standby controllers and additional disk shelves if needed. Usually, the network consists of the hardware from different vendors, for example, Cisco network equipment, NetApp storage systems, servers from Lenovo, HP Enterprise, Dell, or others. There should be a separate specialist responsible for computing, networking, or storing in your IT team, as there are different command lines, different vendor support, and other particularities depending on the function performed. Looks familiar, but rather complicated, doesn't it? Hyper-converged solution helps making life easier. This scheme looks as follows. There are more powerful high availability pair of switches and server cluster that includes unified x86 servers with Intel CPU, hard disks, network adapters, and so on. While showing this scheme, we're talking not only about vStack, but about hyperconverged systems such as Nutanix or VMware, HCI. I'd like to put special emphasis on the fact that the availability level of both schemes will be equal. So now it's time to list the advantages of hyperconvergence. Your infrastructure becomes simpler and easier to administrate. There is no hardware vendor lock-in. You may choose the equipment that fits your current network and that your IT team is used to work with. You'll spend less on the hardware using standard commodity equipment. HCI can be managed by only one experienced system administrator. There is no need to hire several specialists who are responsible for individual components such as storage, network, or virtualization. Infrastructure flexibility and fast scalability. A failed node or its element can be quickly restored because all hardware components are highly available in the market. There is no specific hardware that can only be taken from the particular vendor and where the delivery deadlines are far too long. Let us now have a look at Gartner Magic Quadrant for hyperconverged infrastructure software. Major players like Cisco, HP Enterprise, Dell, and Huawei are not included in the Gartner rating because they offer integrated hyper-converged systems. Such software products work only with their own vendor hardware. That is how vendor lock-in looks like. At the moment, HCI is a new topic. There are only two companies considered as leaders, Nutanix and VMware. Even such giant as Microsoft with its Azure Stack HCI is considered as a visionary yet. So the transition to HCI is only a matter of time. If you remember, 10 years ago, virtualization was a new, strange, and unknown thing for many companies. A lot of them were stick to bare metal solutions to the utmost. But now, practically every business uses virtualization in its network. We could only imagine how much money and effort they could have saved if they had tried virtualization earlier. So, taking into consideration the latest trends and following IT leaders' strategies, in the fourth quarter of 2018, ITG launched a new project of developing our own HCI solution. That is how vStack appeared. In the year of 2019, we started implementing vStack for a B2C cloud provider. We will revert to this use case in the second part of the webinar. In 2020, two of our sites started offering infrastructure as a service on vStack. Till then, you could use vStack-based cloud infrastructure in the Netherlands and in the USA. In 2021, we are starting an ambitious project to create a private cloud for the Russian Science Center based on vStack. Oh, I can see that there are some questions in our chat, and I'll gladly answer them after the presentation, and maybe you'll find some answers in the second part of our webinar. And the second part starts with vStack architecture description. At the very beginning of this presentation, I've already mentioned that hyper-converged infrastructure is a software-defined IT infrastructure that combines data storage functions, networking, computing functions. vStack is an operating system built on FreeBSD. vStack uses the Beehive hypervisor, originally developed by NetApp Company, the enterprise storage system market leader. Beehive has become a part of FreeBSD since 2014. Its key advantages are high performance and good integration with zettabyte file system. Zettabyte file system is the legacy of Sun Microsystems company. It can perform a lot of things, and in terms of capabilities, it's quite comparable to enterprise-level storage software. SD network follows the same principle as VMware's distributed Ethernet switch. A quick summary of the most important features of vStack. Creation of virtual data centers. There is support for resource quotas. You can limit the IOPS consumption of the storage system or limit the consumption of CPUs and RAM. Very fast virtual machine creation speed. At the moment, vStack operating system supports the following images: FreeBSD, CentOS, Red Hat, Ubuntu, Windows Server 2019. There is also a flexible virtual machine management. You can create, delete, clone virtual machines. Snapshots of virtual machines with same configurations are available. Zettabyte file system based SDS. All modern storage options are available. Thin provisioning plus self-healing error corrections, snapshots, clones, compression, deduplication. All of these options are available. High economic efficiency on the computing layer means that oversubscription rate is up to 1 to 10. There may be absolutely different usage scenarios for vStack HCI. It can be applied for low cost but complex environments, such as test and dev, or just become the basis for public cloud or for scale-out software hosting. But we'd like to draw your attention to three main use cases. vStack, first of all, is a nice tool to replace open source solutions, such as OpenStack or KVM. If your infrastructure grows rapidly and you're tired of from open source solutions and want to have a proprietary one along with the vendor support, regular updates, and documentation, but you're not ready to spend a lot on this infrastructure, vStack is exactly what you need. If you're already using some proprietary solution like VMware or Hyper-V, but you want to spend less on non-critical environments such as test and dev, vStack will definitely become a nice alternative in your infra. And finally, if you need extra resources for a special project that is located outside the main infrastructure, for example, for a subsidiary startup, vStack is also a nice tool to check and start working with. Now, there are a lot of KVM-based solutions on the market and a lot of different orchestrator software for KVM. But the important thing is that they are not proprietary solutions. They do not have their own operating system. As you may know, KVM is owned by Red Hat, that is beneficially owned by IBM. And this year, IBM decided to close CentOS project. So CentOS will become end of support in December 2021. But we have our own operating system. It's our competitive advantage. If we are moving to a licensing model, there is a very clear one for vStack, and there are two standard options available. Subscription model that works as a service model, you pay monthly and consider only operational expenses. And of course, perpetual model, when you get a lifelong license with annual support fee. No matter which licensing model you choose, there is always vStack infrastructure management option available. We also call it Managed vStack. Let us take a look at an example of the installation with a cluster of 4 servers, Dell R720. This is the current generation of Dell Rack servers. Each server has 2 CPUs, Intel Xeon Gold 6226, 128 gigabytes RAM, 4 SSDs of 480 GB per each server. The approximate cost of one server of that type is up to 7,000 euros in the Netherlands. The price is relevant for June 2021. In this cluster of 4 physical servers, N+1 redundancy is provided by default, which means that if one server fails, the cluster will continue working. One disk on each server may go down as well, and this will not lead to any data loss. It is also important to remember that for a cluster of 6 nodes, each node must have at least 6 local disks. The quantity of disks should be equal to quantity of nodes. We use an HBI adapter, not a RAID controller. Redundancy is achieved at the software level. If you already have your hardware or you are considering some hardware from a secondary market, it's also possible to build the HCI with the help of vStack in this case, and it may become an additional tool of cost optimization. But please remember that all server nodes should be alike. They should have the same processors and memory. We will gladly give the recommendations and help you to select and configure the hardware. If we switch to tariffs and quotes, you can see that vStack is built for points. Point is a measure of system performance. The more the points, the higher the price. They are easy to count. There is a calculator for partners available, or you can just fill in the form on our website to get a quotation. You can find a link in the comments. Let us take the standard oversubscription options for private cloud. For CPU, it is 1:5. For memory, it's 1:1. For storage, it's doubled. Therefore, from a cluster of 4 physical servers or nodes, we will get approximately 45 typical virtual machines. The price for a vStack license in this case starts from only $300 per month. Perpetual license is also available. Just send us a request and we'll provide you with a quotation. And now it's time to see how the vStack control panel looks like. This screenshot shows the graphic user interface screen for the cluster management section. This is a demo instance and it's assembled from 5 physical nodes. Over-provisioning is an important metric for business because it shows cloud efficiency. Number of pools equals the number of physical nodes. The pool is pinned to the certain hardware node at a certain point in time, and if it fails, it moves to another host. Imperative node selection may be needed for virtual machine allocation. This is how the interface looks like from a user's perspective. You could see only your VDCs and the virtual machines inside. This is the virtual machine creation process. It's very user-friendly and intuitive. You just fill in the gaps and you get it. This slide shows you the virtual machine calculators. This information, as well as some other data, may be easily uploaded for further processing and billing. And finally, the use case that I've promised, the service-space.io. Since 2019, vStack has been used by the international cloud provider ServiceSpace as one of the 2 main virtualization systems together with the VMware. The vStack platform is deployed on the provider's servers in the Netherlands and in the USA. ServiceSpace is considered top 1 for virtual machine performance on the market as per the Geekbench testing. The price of a virtual machine on vStack is 2 times lower than those on VMware. ITG has more than 10 years experience as a cloud provider and a system integrator. We got deep expertise and assembled a team of highly qualified developers, and it helped us to create something truly new in the industry. We elaborated vStack operating system using the best practice in the industry available in FreeBSD. So if you feel interested or you have some free hardware, just contact us and we will provide you with the free demo version. If you do not have your own hardware yet, it's not a problem. We will gladly give you an access to our demo zone. So that is all for today. I hope you got interested in the vStack Hyper-Converged Platform. Let us move on to the questions that we got in the chat. So the first question is it possible to migrate a virtual machine from VMware to vStack? Let me say yes, it's possible, but at the moment, this functionality is rather limited. It would be available in next versions of vStack, but it's likely that there will be some restrictions on the types of operating systems. The second question is, what do I need to install a demo version? It's quite easy. Please fill in a form on our website, itglobal.com. We will contact you shortly, send you a short questionnaire, then check if your current equipment meets the technical requirements and install the software remotely. So I believe these are all questions for today, not so many of them. Well, the solution is rather new and you may have more questions the more you learn about it and think how it could be integrated in your current network. Please feel free to contact me or ITG team and ask us these questions. And of course, let us start with the testing. So that is all for today. Thank you all for coming and wishing you a nice day.